How you doing? It's great.
Great.
Great
Welcome
to see
to
you.
Circle.
Thanks.
I'm so excited to have you here. You're a new friend,
Yes.
but I've already got a nickname for you, the Renaissance Man. And that's because you are a man of many talents, lots of knowledge, many areas of expertise, and we're going to try to share as many of those as we can today. So, so guys, take a seat, grab some popcorn, get ready, strap in. We met not too long ago at our beautiful girlfriend Laura Sun's house,
Right.
Introduced by Donald Sucho,
Right.
a former Delphine Circle guest. He's
Right.
been in the circle.
And an Olympic volleyball player.
And an Olympic volleyball player. And you guys have known each other for quite a while.
Many years, yeah.
Yeah, I think you had something to do with helping him with volleyball.
Yeah, I did. I was on the U.S. Olympic Committee, the USA Volleyball Board, and he was, the first thing that came up was him trying to bring his fiancée to London, and they filled out the paperwork wrong, and she got banned because she was from the Ukraine, and then I helped sort that out. And
Oh, well, you sounds like a good friend to have around.
yeah, he's a great guy. He's a champion. 3 Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Love him. So, Mike, I'm going to start by going through a lot of the stuff. I mean, you're a very humble person, and but every time I'm with you, I walk away going, this guy is amazing, because there's really so many things that you've done, so many experiences you've had. I mean, did you actually set out to be a Renaissance man, or how have you had so many incredible experiences in your life?
I didn't really. I wanted to travel and to have an interesting life, and I started that right when I came out of college. Right when I went into college, my freshman year of college, where you could buy a round the world ticket for as a student, and you go standby. And so I started visiting countries and going to the museums, and it just got interesting from there.
You're just a very curious person, huh? You have a very, very active mind,
Yeah.
always wanting to know things, yeah?
Yeah, it's the reason why I don't put much caffeine in my body, because then I just get bing, bing, bing. Just as a kindness to the rest of the world, I stay away from caffeine.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you very much. I'll take that.
Yeah.
So let's start with your primary vocation. You're the chairman and co-founder of Allied Professionals Insurance Company, an insurance provider for alternative healthcare practitioners, started in 1986. Right now, you insure about 80% of U.S. acupuncturists, about 40% of chiropractors, herbalists, naturopaths. I would say that this is a greatly expanding area.
It's great. I mean, when we started into it, nobody wanted to insure in alternative healthcare. They thought that people were all crazy, but I believed in it. I get acupuncture and massage every week, and no one else wanted to do it. So when we started, we were quite tiny, and then we started, it built on itself, and medicine, the number of doctors were actually going down because there's an oversupply, but alternative healthcare is continuing to grow, and there's new fields like Ayurveda and herbs in this area that are just now getting licensed, and they're breaking out. So it's a booming area, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love all of that stuff, every one of it. So I appreciate you doing the support. So with claims, would it be normal to have more claims in alternative or less claims, or how does that compare to traditional Western physicians?
Significantly less claims. Usually 1 in 10 medical doctors get sued every year, so 10%. In acupuncture, massage is about 0.2%. In acupuncture, about 1%, and chiropractor about 1.5%. So their patients like them, and even some people may not believe they helped them. They don't hurt people normally.
Right.
It's rare. I mean, you can get a burn or a needle stuck in the wrong place, but it's pretty rare. They're very safe.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I'm a huge believer in chiropractic. That saved my life when I was pregnant. I had huge babies, and I literally got into chiropractic on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And I love everything about it: Reiki, acupuncture, every single thing. And we have a lot of that here in Orange County. We have a lot of practitioners locally. Do you specialize mostly in this area, or?
No, we're a national company.
Yeah.
We're in all 50 states and every U.S. territory. Originally, when I started, we were just in California, but that was in '86, and then we rapidly, once we figured it out, we rapidly expanded outside of California. But I would say California and maybe New Mexico are the 2 places that most seem to connect with alternative healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we're a step ahead over here.
Yeah.
So you also are part owner of 11 other companies. Are those related businesses, or?
Yeah, it's all the same family of companies. We have We have a company that does publications in these industries. We have a company that does seminars in these industries, products in these industries. And then over time, as we got bigger and we learned how to do certain things, we started companies that help other small specialty insurance companies do stuff that it took us a long time to figure out, like purchase reinsurance where you take a piece of your risk and you give it to somebody else, that kind of thing. And so then we branched out into that. But they're all, same family of companies, same partners, privately held,
So clearly very successful in business. You've made your mark in insurance, but you're also a practicing attorney.
Yes.
Former managing partner of a law firm,
Right.
And now you take on individual cases. I think you said political litigation on pro bono basis.
Right.
So, I mean, I know a little bit about the legal world. I was married to an attorney in a huge attorney family, but I know very few people that just practice law on the side. So, why do you still take on cases?
Well, really for two reasons. One of them is I always did pro bono cases, even when I was in private practice. If I saw what I thought was a worthy cause or somebody that I thought was being bullied or something, then I might take on their case. And then I, was a practicing attorney, and I still do some legal work for my company. I do some of the Court of Appeals arguments and that sort of thing, which I really enjoy. But it just seems like a good opportunity to do something well and kind of keep your hand in the game and keep your practice going. But I don't have any paying clients anymore. I haven't for years.
Give me an example of a case that you've taken on recently.
Well, I guess the most recent one that was high profile would have been the Trish Todd rape case, where this poor woman who was a staffer for John Morlock was raped by another member of the legislature. And brutally raped. It was just a horrible story. You give you brain cancer just to read the report on it. And then it was covered up. She was told that she couldn't report it, and that she couldn't go to the police, and she couldn't tell the senator directly. And she tried to commit suicide. It was a horrible thing.
Oh my gosh.
And she was spiraling downward. And then through a mutual friend, she came my way, and I listened to her story, and I believed her. And I said, well, actually we can do something about this, and we will do something about this. So we packaged it all together. It became quite controversial politically because at that point, John Morlock had just been beaten for state senate, was running a special election here for Orange County Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, that just happened.
Right, exactly. This was only a few months ago. So that got the salacious aspects of the rape and whatnot got pulled into the political campaign, especially because there was a cover-up involved, And I think that's the reason why he lost was that case. And I got some criticism from some of my Republican friends. I'm like, hey, you got to be an adult, and you can't just let something like this go by. But that'd be the most recent one. I've done all kinds of stuff like that, but that was the most recent case I was.
Has that been wrapped up yet?
Oh no, it'll go on for a while because the person who's accused of this rape was a member of the legislature as well, and it's being handled by the Sacramento District Attorney and the Sacramento Police Department because that's where it happened, and they're still investigating. She's fully cooperating, and and we'll wait for that process to play out first, and then we'll decide what we're going to do next.
Yeah. Oh, well, best of luck on that one. That's horrible. Mike, clearly you have extensive experience in politics, both presidential and statewide politics. You've co-chaired several presidential campaigns in California, including George Bush in '88 and '92, Bob Dole in '96, and George W. in 2000. You were the state co-chair and political director for Senator Ted Cruz during his 2016 presidential race. So was your support of Cruz a pro-Cruz or an anti-Trump move?
It was pro-Cruz. I mean, I don't ever do like anti-campaigns. I have to believe in the candidate, especially for the princely sums I'm being paid for doing this, which is nothing. And I really liked him. He's very smart. He doesn't come off as warm as he really is. If you were sitting with him, you'd have a completely different point of view.
Could you get him in my circle?
Yeah, see what I can do.
I'd like to sit with him.
Oh, he's amazing. But he's one of the smartest people I ever run into, and everybody was flocking.
Coming
towards
from
Trump.
you, that says a lot.
He is. He's amazing. And originally I knew I wasn't going to support Trump, and a lot of people were flocking to Trump. And I wanted to find, see if I wanted to support another candidate. And I met him, liked him, spent a bunch of time out in Iowa in the first caucus, which I loved working Iowa. Iowa's a lot of fun. It's very retail. And we actually beat Trump in Iowa, but he had 100% name ID. We started with like 4%. And we eventually, it was just him and us, but we couldn't sustain it. And Trump won.
Do you see Cruz trying for another run?
He might. It's going to be interesting for him because there's, you've got DeSantis out of Florida, very impressive guy, the governor of Florida, and you have the governor of Texas, Abbott, who's looking at a run, and he's very impressive. And if he and Cruz both run, they're kind of splitting stuff. Cruz is young, and he's still in his 40s. He might go this time. I think he's going to go again. Otherwise, he'd be on the Supreme Court because Trump would have put him there if he wanted to go, and he didn't. And that tells me that he wants to go again. It's the question of when is it his time, and I don't think he's sure.
Wow, it's incredible. You were also the state co-chair, and you were also the chairman of the California Republican Party and vice chairman of the Republican National Committee. You've been the political director for numerous California statewide campaigns, including Steve Poizner for governor in 2010, and for Orange County District Attorney Tony Rackauckus for actually each of his campaigns, right?
Right, all of his campaigns. Same thing with Sheriff Corona as well when he was running.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever considered running for a public office yourself?
When I was a kid, I thought that's what I'd be doing. But then when I got into it, and I thought, I think I can make more of an impact by being involved in multiple campaigns, getting good people in good positions, and then just letting them do good stuff. And then, some of the rigmarole you have to go through in politics is just awful. You basically...
You think?
Yeah, exactly. You have to beg people for money every day. You become somewhat of a commodity that's bought and sold. And I just decided ultimately that I liked what I was doing, and it gave me time to travel and do my other things, and I try to keep my my life private in a lot of ways, which I wouldn't be able to do if I was in public office. Public office, you just got to go, here's my privacy. Mm-hmm. I'll get it back when I'm done. Okay,
maybe
ever, if ever, yeah.
Is there ever a candidate that you didn't support but later wished you had?
That's a great question. Not that I can think of. I'm sure there is. I'm sure the answer to your question is yes, but nobody jumps to mind right now.
What about somebody you supported but wish maybe you shouldn't have?
Well, in my entire life, I've only endorsed somebody once and then withdrawn it. And I won't mention the person's name, but there was somebody who was running for an assembly seat, and I found out after I endorsed him that there were some shady things about money laundering of contributions and other sorts of things. And I'm like, and that's basically my own rule. Like, once I endorse you, I'm with you, unless you disgrace your title and like doing something like that, that's unethical or illegal, and then I will. And so I moved off that and ended up supporting somebody else, and that guy lost, as he should have.
Now, what about Sheriff Corona? Because I know you were a big supporter of him, and in the end, that didn't go well in his career. What are your thoughts about Sheriff Corona now?
He's still a great friend of mine. We're still good friends. I felt very badly about what happened there. He was, I ran both of his campaigns. In fact, even during all that stuff was going on, I ran a second campaign, and in a four-way race, we got to 50.2% in the first round, so we didn't have to have a second round. He was accused of a bunch of corruption charges, which I never believed had any merit. And he was accused of one count of improperly talking to his co-defendant. And ultimately, he was acquitted of all the corruption charges. And the only thing he was convicted of was having an improper conversation with his co-defendant, which on a witness tampering charge. And, I didn't agree with it, but it's our system of justice. And, but I can have a friend, my friend either screws up or people think he screws up. They don't stop being my friend. And I like him to this day.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise to you that I was reading a bunch of news articles, and you have quite a reputation out there, sir. You're kind of known to be a little bit of a ruthless, very, calculating, adversary. Maybe Darth Vader possibly would be a description people have used for you.
The media likes that term. They came up with it. And honestly, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, that's kind of my persona in politics. It's not in my personal life or in my business life, but I do play politics as a contact sport. I always do it. I always do it within the rules, and I don't attack people personally. But you know, you if you go into something, you go into it to win. You don't go into it to lose. Mm-hmm. And then the nice thing is there's a momentum created over time, where you support a bunch of different people, and then they get in, and then you have a new person that looks like a worthy person, and then you can go back to the people you help. Because I don't ever lobby or any of that stuff. So the only thing I ever ask somebody for is maybe to support somebody new. And then the whole Dark Lord thing actually makes it a little bit easier, you know.
So, but why do you why do you think people say that about you? Because it's clearly a suggestion that maybe you maybe have been mean to people, or I've read that you've had people get fired or removed from jobs if you were, unhappy with their behavior or they're going up against you. Is that fair?
Well, not people's jobs, unless you talk about political offices, in which case that is a fair comment. I mean, if somebody, I mean, I actually did the first recall in California in 115 years of a guy. And then I did a second recall down here in Orange County of a assemblywoman named Doris Allen. But if I don't normally take any of this personally, and I don't make it personal. Every once in a while, you'd see something where somebody was making me the issue or making it personal, and then I'm okay with that at that point. But I just there's some people that really shouldn't be in office. I'll just give you one example. There was and this, I think a lot of this was created, that image of me was created because there was a district attorney named Michael Capizzi, and he started telling people he was going to run for office in 4 years, and part of it was going to prosecute a high-level political figure. And I thought, well, how would he know that? That's 4 years from now. I mean, is he just going to pick someone and do it? And that's pretty much what happened. He decided to try to prosecute Dana Rohrabacher, who was a congressman, a good friend of mine for 30 years up in the Huntington Beach area, and his wife and a friend of his. And I thought that was nonsense. And I said that quite publicly. And then, the more I looked in that office, I thought, actually, that office, there was a lot of corruption and bad behavior going on in there. But if you're going to go after someone who can indict you, you better win, And he decided to run for attorney general, and he ran for attorney general when I was state party chairman. And we recruited another guy to run against him, and he even lost Orange County by 10 points when his battle title was Orange County District Attorney. And I wouldn't even let him into the convention hall. I just nope. And I didn't apologize for it. I was very clear that I thought, he was, that I thought that what he did in his office was improper and corrupt, and I disapproved of it.
Do you still love politics? Is that something you still plan on being active in?
It's a funny question. I told 2016 were the last round of races that I did, and I said, I'm done. It's 40 years even of doing politics. It's a perfect time to step out. Maybe if a presidential race comes along that's interesting, I might do that.
And you've moved your primary residence to Texas.
Yeah, I live
right?
in Texas. Yeah.
So.
And that made it a lot easier to say, no, I don't want to, because people always want your help. I said, well, hey, I live in Texas now. But, and then the Trish Todd rape case came up, and I kind of got that old joke, just as you thought you're out, you got pulled back in. Well, that's kind of how this was. I felt like I ended up being involved in the race just because I was representing the rape victim. But I don't plan on getting back into it. I'm helping one gentleman out who's running for Orange County Supervisor, actually for the seat that John Morlock lost. Named Mike Posey. I'm helping him a bit. I'm one of his co-chairs of his campaign. But I'm much more inclined to be out of politics than in it at this point. I'd rather focus on other things.
We will see. We'll believe it when we see it.
Yeah, my friends and family do not believe it, by the way. They're like, yeah, right, you're not doing that.
Yeah, I've known you for not that long, and I'm having a hard time believing it.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to tell myself that,
Yeah,
though.
okay. Well,
It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
there you go. Okay, so you, moving right along, are also a member of the U.S. Volleyball Olympic Committee.
I was on the board of directors for USA Volleyball for many years, and I really enjoyed that. Help and watching the players come up and the kids come up, and it was great.
How'd you get involved in that? Were you a volleyball player?
I played on the beach. I was never any good, but I had some friends, and then
Maybe Donald can give you some lessons.
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. Although he's an indoor player, but yeah, and then I reconnected with volleyball because they had a geographic problem, which is they were trading with the rest of all the Olympic teams up in Colorado Springs. And that's a problem because volleyball players play with the biggest ball that you play with outdoors, and those balls carry differently at altitude than they do at sea level. So they needed to move somewhere, and I was asked if I might see if I could facilitate moving them to Anaheim. And that required raising a lot of money and doing a lot of just logistics and other sorts of things, which we did. We moved the men, and then 2 years later, we moved the women down. And it made a big difference in their game. So it was good. It was good.
You've also, how many Olympic Games have you been to?
I started in Moscow in 80, and I went to every Summer Olympics until the 2016 Brazil Games. I didn't go there because my family and friends did not want to go, and it was a mess down there. And I kind of was sorry to see the streak end. And of course, I'm not in Tokyo because they're not letting anybody into that one. But I'll be in Paris, and I'll be in LA. And it'll be great.
Of all those games, is there anyone that stands out that was one of your faves?
Beijing. Beijing was amazing because they basically spent $50 billion throwing themselves a party. And the stadiums were unbelievable. Like the swim thing was made to look like a pulsing ice cube, and they had the giant bird's nest for the track stadium. And the opening ceremonies were insane. And in the $50 billion, they don't even count all the members of the Army and God knows how else other people that made work and do stuff that they didn't even count in the budget. But it was an unbelievable games, and I'll never forget it.
You're also, as if all of that is not enough, you're also an extensive world traveler.
I love to travel, yeah.
How did that get started?
Right out of high school, I wanted to travel, and so I set a goal for myself to try to go to every country in the world. That was kind of what I wanted to do. And back then, you get these really cheap tickets around the world if you're a student on standby, and so every year I started going around the world.
So what is it about you that tells yourself when you were in high school, I want to see every country around the world? I mean, that's a really big goal for a high schooler to set for themselves.
I'm not really sure why. I read a lot when I was younger, and I just thought, and I read somewhere that less than 30 people had done what I wanted to do at the time, and I thought, that's worth doing. And I just started, and then I got hooked on it, and I just loved it, and I'd float into a country, and I'd spend a few days until I kind of felt like I got it, and then I'd just float to the next one. I didn't have a set itinerary, and I got to see, Russia in the wintertime on the Trans-Siberian Railroad, got to see all this, amazing things that I'd never imagined. I didn't even know a lot of these things existed till I floated in and saw them, because I grew up without any real money, so this was just great. And once I got started on it, it just kept right on going.
Did you travel a lot by yourself, or with fans, or friends and family, or who did you travel with?
Well, all the trips were just me. Now, sometimes I'd run into some people and we traveled together for a while, but all that early travel was just me with a backpack. Now, I travel usually with friends and family, but that's not, for many years, it was just me.
Do you have any favorite places that are at the top of your list, must-dos?
My favorite is probably Bali. It's beautiful. They have orchid temples. I mean, the place is amazing. Russia's amazing. Riding the Trans-Siberian Railroad was cool.
Why Bali? Everybody says Bali. I've never been to Bali. What is it about Bali that makes everybody so Enthusiastic about it.
It's beautiful. Maybe the most beautiful place I've personally ever seen in my life is the North Shore of Kauai, around Princeville. But it's like that, and then it's really peaceful. It's very spiritual. They have these orchid temples that are unbelievable. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing China back in the 70s. That was amazing. Mao was still in charge. That was amazing. But there's so many places. Once I get started on that, I don't know where to start. In Europe, London, Paris, my two favorite cities. They're amazing.
Yeah, I love London too. You've been to both poles.
Yes, North and South Pole.
Tell me, what was it like going to the North Pole?
It was cold. It can get to 120 below. It was difficult. It's the hardest thing I ever did in my life.
Really?
Yeah. And without getting political, global warming is happening, and the ice up there is getting thinner. And there would be time when there was like 15 or 20 parties working their way up there, and sometimes this time we're doing there only 2, because for 1,200 miles there's no land; it's just ice. And if you fall through, it's a challenge.
There's nobody saving you.
You got to save yourself, and you got to practice that, and that's a whole thing by itself.
Wow. How long did that take?
Last part of it took us like 9 days.
Wow. Yeah. How many people on the truck with you?
6.
And was that something that you can buy your way into, or did you have to create it on your own?
Well, you create it on your own because you have to decide how you're going to be equipped. And it's not an easy place to get to. You go up through Norway and Oslo in a place called Tromsø, and then you fly up to the last place of land in the world on the north, which is a place called Svalbard. And it's like going into the Star Wars bar scene, to go back to the whole Darth Vader thing. There's no customs. There's no immigration. No one asks who you are. You just show up. And from there, you snowmobile over to a place. And then from there, you take these Russian jump jets that go land out on a Russian research base called Borneo. But it's literally on a sheet of ice that's floating. And there's a 14-day window. That's it. Because it's moving and it's melting. And then, the Russian base commander was really funny. He goes, well, if you're not back by this day, you'll be here another year. Oh. And he was nice, but he wasn't kidding either, Wow. And so when you land, you can watch the ice ripple from the jet, and the jet never completely stops. It just kind of keeps moving along, and you throw your stuff out and you jump out after it.
Weren't you scared?
Not that at that moment, but there are moments, you feel the ice giving away or something that you think this may have been a really terrible idea.
Oh my gosh, I would have been thinking that every single step of the way.
The dogs were amazing, though. We were dog sledding, and the dogs were amazing. They
knew what they were doing?
No, you're the lead dog. They follow you, but you don't ride the sled. They pull the sled that has the supplies and their food and your food in there.
Oh my gosh, Mike, that sounds incredible.
It was maybe the most amazing thing I ever did, and it certainly was the most difficult thing I ever did physically.
So you've been a climber, a diver. Tell me about some of those experiences. Where have you climbed?
It's like meditative for me, diving and climbing. In some respects, it's the same thing. Like when I dive, I usually do what's called drift diving, where I get on a spot and I just kind of go straight down, feet first, until I get to the bottom. I pick up some of the sand on the bottom, and I hold it up in front of my mask, and I let go of it to see which direction the current's going. And then I swim into the current until a third of my air is gone. And then I just go limp and let the current take me back. And so you're floating, and nobody is, it's just, there's nothing but that. And the fish come out because you're not making thrashing or much in the way of bubbles or this and that. And you could just go back, and it's one of the most peaceful things you can imagine.
At what depth would you be at for that?
Deepest I've ever gone with recreational equipment is about 175 feet. Normally, for just a peace out drift dive, about 30 to 60 feet on a pretty coral reef is just fine with me. Mm-hmm. And then climbing is much the same thing for me. I look at my feet, and I pick out the next spot I'm going to step. My whole world becomes, where's my next step? And it's very meditative. And a lot of times people will be whizzing by me and they're pointing at the top of the mountain. They go, I'm going there. Really? See that rock 50 feet from me? That's where I'm going until I get there. So I like that about it. My most recent high mountain was Kilimanjaro, 19,000 feet
gosh.
in Africa. That was a great experience. And it's interesting because it's the highest standalone mountain in the world. So when you get up the top of that thing, you can see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles, where sometimes you get up on a mountain and there's a bunch of little mountains around it that are just a little bit less, shorter, and you basically can only see them. You can't really see it. There's not much of a view. That's also an interesting mountain because it has the highest temperature differential. It's rainforest at the bottom, and it's hot and rainy and stuff, and at the top there's glaciers. So it's a big swing in temperatures.
Are you planning any other climbs?
I think so. I mean, it's
What's on your list?
well, my goal would be Everest, and then I'd want to stop. But I had a knee injury 5 years ago, actually climbing, and I'm working my way up. I'd like to do it next year, but we'll see how the knee is going.
How long does that take?
About 3 or 4 months to do right.
Oh my gosh.
Because you have to kind of go up, and then however much you go up, you got to go down a little bit and go up and go down a little bit, and then you spend some time at base camp. You're kind of building up your oxygenation. Like when I was doing Kilimanjaro, it's just like clockwork. I hold this little tong on my finger, and it tells me how much oxygen I have in my system, which, right now it's going to say 100%, right? 100%. And you really don't want to get below about 65%. So you keep kind of triggering yourself until finally your body produces a lot more red blood cells, and it'll be like it's sitting at 70. You go, wham, it'll be back to 99. And then you can go up, That's why it takes so long.
Wow.
And it's
That's
about
incredible.
6% oxygen up here versus 20.9 was what we're breathing.
How do you clear your calendar for a couple months? Just you're out of office as I'm climbing Everest. Leave me alone.
I only did that once. When I was going to the South Pole, I actually put that on my cell phone. I'm on my way to call me back. You can leave a message and I'll get back to you when I'm back. No, the only way you do something like that is you just do it. People say, I don't have time to travel. Yes, you do. You just have to do it. You just have to say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, balance my life enough that I can do that.
So why do you do all these things? Is there something inside of you that feels like, there's something I need to prove to myself? Is it just for the sheer joy of it? Because, a lot of these things seem really difficult, and they don't seem that fun.
It is for the sheer joy of it. You are right that there are times when it is not fun. You're cold, you're wet, you've broken a bone, whatever it is. And at that moment in time, it's not fun. But the being able to see the things that I've seen, I don't even know how to describe some of them. I wish I could put a cable in my head and let people see them. Like when you're on your way to the North Pole, there's these 2-mile wide sheets of ice, and when they slide by each other, they make a sound like whales. They call it the ice moaning, or watching polar bears chase ring seals. You just get to see this, or the Serengeti migration, and watching hundreds of thousands of animals on the move at one time. That gives me joy, and I think that experiences are the things that people can't take away from you. When you have that experience, you have that memory, that's with you for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. So true. Well, I think this is a good time to segue into the big questions, because that's what we do here. Mm-hmm. So, Mike, tell me about your daily routines.
Well, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do, it's just for a moment before I open my eyes, is I think about a couple of things that I'm grateful for, and I thank God for them. And then that's how things start.
Are they different things every day, or is it kind of the same? My daughter,
I try to make them different. I try to think of new things, so that it's actually a sincere thing that I can be grateful for, because there's so many things that I can be grateful for, and I am grateful for, and that I've been blessed with that I never saw coming. So I want to be in the moment and be grateful for those things. Usually almost always work out. I try to allocate in the beginning of the day things that might be intellectually interesting or challenging, or just I really need to think and focus in the morning because I think I'm fresher then. I always I have this silly habit at the end of the day, my desk has to be clean. I leave at my desk, there's nothing on it. Because for me, if I come back in the morning and there's something sitting there, it's just going, hi. And it's just stressing me out by sitting there. And and it could sit there for months. I don't do that. I find something at the end of the day. It could be a glass of wine or something, maybe floating in my pool, and just get some quiet time or routine, some kind of routine at the end of the day to calm myself down. And that's pretty much it.
Do you have that same, simplicity, cleanliness about your home as well?
Yeah. I'm definitely not a cluttered person.
Yeah.
And I keep pretty much to the same routines, which if you travel a lot is actually pretty useful because then you remember what you need and you find out you don't need as much as you thought you did, and then you can do it.
Well, I will say I'm a pretty good traveler. I can pack light. People don't believe it. Guys never believe it, but I usually pack lighter than the men I travel with. So
that's impressive.
Right?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
impressive.
So. Yeah. Tell me something that most people would be surprised to know about you.
Actually, I think it's what we've already talked about, the climbing and the diving. Nobody knows that. I don't really talk about it.
It's out now.
There we go. I know. And I loved going through and doing the training, working my way up through the levels of certification for diving and getting all the specialty certifications. And I really enjoy that. It's something that I never talked about it. In fact, it's interesting that we're doing this because that one article you were mentioning was a profile the LA Times wanted to do about me, and I told them I wasn't going to cooperate. I didn't do profiles, and I said you can write it anyway, but I'm not going to talk to you and cooperate. So this is the first time I've ever done this.
Well, I feel very special, Mike. Thanks. What books have influenced you the most?
I'm more visual, I go with movies, but there's two books that definitely had an influence on me: Machiavelli, The Prince, and Sun Yat-sen's The Art of War. Both of them apply not just in war, but they both apply in politics, and a lot of it applies in business. Certain principles about how you conduct yourself and how you want, your word needs to matter. In politics, and I found in business, or even with the media, you can totally lie to someone once, and you'll get away with it. You can create a completely false story, and the reporters will write it. But then when they find out you lied, you're done. Mm-hmm. So never do that. So those two books had a big influence on me.
So what type of media do you consume? Do you read newspapers or?
Yeah, I read a newspaper every day, usually right after I worked out.
Or in paper?
Online. And that's that's pretty much my daily news. I love different shows. I love Star Wars, probably, and I guess I liked it more once I started getting labeled as the Dark Lord. But Mandalorian had Baby Yoda in it. So pumped to watch the Mandalorian.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're a TV watcher too.
I watch TV. I love going to movies. Mm-hmm. That was a thing before COVID came along, and it's starting to become a thing again. I love movies. I love lots of movies, and I've just enjoyed them.
So why do you think we're here? What's the purpose of life?
I'm
going to you for the answers,
okay.
Mike, so
you're not going to be happy with this. I wish I knew. I think God has a plan for each one of us. I think it's hard to know what that plan is. I don't know what it is for me. But generally my belief is I kind of try to shift it to, if I don't know what the plan is, what do I want to do and be? And I think I basically subscribe to the checkbook theory of your worth as a human being, which is every time you do something good, you help some person or society or something, I think you get like a deposit in your account. And every time you screw up and do something bad, you get debited. And if at the end of your life you've done more good things than bad things, then I think your life was a success, and otherwise I think it was a failure. And that's pretty harsh, but I take that act to its logical conclusion. I'm one of these people who supports the death penalty because I think some people have such horrible crimes that you might as well close their account because they're never going to catch up, and they're just going to keep running negative things. But that's as close as I can come to the meaning of life. Yeah. Just do more good than bad.
It's kind of a karma definition.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you think is the most pressing issue facing our world?
That the human race may
Besides
outstrip.
global warming?
Yeah, well, that's part of it, because I think the human race may outstrip the ability of the planet to support it, and I think we have to be very cognizant that, as you know, we keeping adding billions of population, the planet can only support so much, and then it starts to run down. I mean, I personally watched the ice melting in the north and the south, and it's a real deal. I mean, you can have reasonable discussion about what to do about it, who's responsible, and that's that's a political conversation. But there's not a serious conversation to be had that things are changing and the planet is getting warmer, and it's a little terrifying if you look at just the photos every year of the ice up north, and how it's just receding every year for the last 50 years, and big pieces that have never gone over breaking off and floating away, and that's going to cause the oceans to rise, and we've got to figure out what we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the benefits to travel, is that you become less susceptible to fake news, right?
It gives you a filter that you can see things through, because you sometimes hear some wild and outlandish things about other countries and other places, and you go, well, that's not the way it looked when I was there.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me something that you used to believe but you don't anymore.
I'd go back to what we talked about, global warming. Initially, I thought it was just a climate variation thing, and then after seeing what I saw, I realized, okay, this is a problem. Mm-hmm. It's something we need to figure out what to do about.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about how that's solved? Because I know you're a big thinker. I'm sure you've given some thought to it. Do you have any ideas?
Well, I think that we need to look at all of the causes of it, and I think that part of it is human activity. I mean, it's just hard to ignore that. It is unrealistic to expect one country like us just to unilaterally cut down if China's still belching everything into the air. But I think we have to address it. Now, part of it is, in some respects, if you want to take the really long view, and this will be a very unpopular statement, it's going to, in some respects, solve itself from this point of view. There's only about a 50-year supply of fossil fuels left. You burn them, you don't burn them, but when they're gone, and then we're going to have to be to alternative sources. But we need to do it in a thoughtful way. California going, well, we'll do 50% solar without wind, and then what happens if it's a hot day at night and the sun's down, and then all the lights go off? You got to think about things like battery storage, and not just sort of knee-jerk reactions, which is on both sides a lot of what I've seen anyway.
Yeah, it takes some big thinking.
Yeah, and the biggest thinker of all, I think, is Elon Musk. I think he's has an amazing mind to see things that the rest of us can't see.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, David Heil, one of our past guests, told some stories about working with Elon Musk. He's just such a fascinating person. I think we're all just fascinated by what he's going to come up with next.
Yeah.
He seems to be solving lots of problems.
Yeah, David's a great guy. He's been my close for many years. He's brilliant. When the California decided to do that bullet train, Governor Brown asked Elon Musk to support the bullet train. Mm-hmm. And he thought his request had been ignored, because until 3 months later, he got this thick envelope from Elon Musk that said, "Stupid, outdated, 100-year-old technology, build this." And he had designed an entire Hyperloop. They could get there like at half the time, and that's Elon Musk. He just comes up with these completely out of the box, brilliant insights.
Yeah, love him.
Yeah.
So tell me about a goal that you've yet to reach.
That's an interesting question. I guess Everest would be an example, but generally I'm more of a themes guy than like a New Year's Eve goals guy. I just say, okay, this theme, I want to regroup, or I want to move things in this direction. I want to make progress here. But I guess I'd have to say that mountain is the only thing I can think of specifically that I've always wanted to do that I haven't done yet.
Mm-hmm. So you say theme things. Are you the type of person that, creates a plan in your mind and then doesn't give up? Or can you go down the path and go, this sounded cool, but I'm not, because I do a lot of that. And I'm wondering.
Yeah. I'm more the kind of person that will push through. Most really important things, or most really big things, are difficult. And at a certain point, you live in this area of uncertainty where the people around you are like, I don't know about this. And if you have to be able to kind of try to see sort of in that fog of war and push through it. But you can't be a zealot that never stops. Sometimes I look and I go, well, that's just not going to work. And you have to be, but I tend to be more on the side of, just pushing at it and pushing at it until I get it done. Be it a climb or a business project or a campaign, but every once in a while you've got to be willing to go, that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. Does that happen to you very often?
It sometimes does. I remember I started one publication for naturopathy called Naturopathy Digest, and the same week we started it, another guy started it, and it was a small market, and we lost money for about a year and a half. I'm like, that's just never going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
No one to quit.
Close it down. So it does happen sometimes. Yeah. I think the people around me think that I stick with things longer than I should. But then again,
I'm sure
they're really
they tell
pleased.
that to Elon Musk too.
Exactly. But they're really pleased, by the way, when they go, wow, I never thought that was going to work, and then it does work. So it's a coin. Everything is a coin. I mean, I use that expression so often and you just don't get to accept one half of the coin. If you've got to be, if somebody does this, then they're likely to also be like that, and you don't really change people. So you got to accept the situation, both sides of the coin, the person.
Oh, that's a great analogy. I love that. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Where did you grow up?
Kind of everywhere. My father was an engineer in the defense industry, so we moved a lot. I mean, probably maybe once a year on average. Brownsville, Texas, Hershey, Pennsylvania, Trona and Death Valley, California.
Wow, that's a lot. That's big moving.
Michigan, which is where I was born. Orange County, New York, in New York. So I just went to a lot of schools and moved a lot.
Yeah, it's funny because a past guest, Carrie Hayden, tells the same story, and you and I talked about this. I grew up and moving constantly too,
Right.
and it's funny how we've adopted this mindset now that it's a bad thing for kids to move around or for them to change. And I feel like I learned so many incredible lessons as a kid. I learned to adapt. I learned
Right.
that you're going to get past change. I learned how to make friends. I think it really fine-tuned my EQ. And clearly, you've gone on to be a very successful person in life, so you weren't damaged by that experience.
I wasn't stunned by it. I actually think a parent's not doing their kid any favor if they never move. I mean, I think that's a negative.
It's a disservice.
I think you have to learn to adapt. And if the first time you ever are out of the nest and never moved or changed your routines is when you hit college, I think you're almost disabled at that point. I think it helps to get to learn, like you said, adapt, change. I try to move every 5 years, just because I think that I don't want to get too stuck in any particular set of habits, and it forces me to throw my junk out when I move.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I agree. I always say you get rid of 1/3 of what you have every time you move, and that
Yeah.
way you don't become a pack rat.
Yeah.
Now, you went to Cal-State Fullerton for
Yeah.
undergraduate and USC,
Right.
and then you went to USC for law school.
That's right.
Do you keep in contact with your Trojan alums?
I do. I'm on the board at the USC Law School. I've been there for many years.
Another board.
Yeah, because I don't have enough of them. But it's a great institution. I'm grateful to them because they gave me a scholarship, and otherwise I would not have been able to afford to go. And there's so many great kids. And I recently was over there talking to a group of them, like, oh my God, I am so old now. When I looked at those kids, they were so young and so much energy and idealism in their faces and their eyes.
You have a daughter that went to law school.
I do.
Is she a Renaissance woman like her dad?
Yeah, I try to keep her out of things, but yes, she's amazing.
And what's she doing now?
She's a lawyer out of Harvard Law, and she and I work together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So she's in the family business.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, she's the smart one in the family.
Well, Harvard Law, that would be pretty hard to deny.
Yeah.
Mike, you're a certified sommelier,
Mm-hmm.
wine collector. So what are you up to? How many bottles of wine are in that collection?
This is something like a drug habit than an avocation, but I have about 6,000 bottles, I guess, collected. I love wine. I've studied it, enjoy it. Most of the places I travel to, I try to go to their wine regions, and I spend a lot of time up in the Napa Valley. It's a giant adult scavenger hunt for me. I just love it. And I love the different ages of it and different grapes and just everything about it.
So do you have like one big cellar that holds everything, or do you have like multiple cellars that can, that's a lot of wine, 6,000 bottles.
It is. I have. I had a big cellar here, but then I moved it and built one in Texas. But it is a massive
I mean,
project.
did you have to get a refrigerated van to transfer all that wine to Texas?
Yeah,
Oh
and think
my
about
gosh.
when it was here, I could find every single bottle. I had it all computerized. It was in racks. I knew exactly where every bottle was. Think about what it involves to get it into a properly refrigerated truck. We missed the polar vortex in Texas by a week, thank God. And then be able to create another system so you can find everything. Otherwise, it's just you got a bunch of boxes, you don't know what's there. But
Right.
so it took me like a year to get it done. But yeah, I have it all in one spot, and it's in a place that's meant for wine storage. It's refrigerated and humidified, so the corks are right.
Oh, awesome. Now, do you use that? Because we had a 1,000-bottle wine room in Laguna, and we were told, don't build it bigger than that, because most people that have anything over 1,000 bottle end up wasting a lot. But there's a service that will come through, and they like tell you what might have gone bad, or they kind of give you. Do you use those types of services?
No, I don't. I have something called Cellar Tracker, which I can see all my bottles. I know where they are, like exactly how to find them. And when I drink a bottle, I make notes into the system, like what I thought about it, like it needs more time, or like sometimes I go, I'll get back to this in 5 years, or I don't like it, and then I just sell it out of the collection. That's rare, but I do that sometimes. And I watch it because I think the great reds are 10 to 30 year sweet spot, depending on the bottle of wine. And so I watch to make sure I'm not getting past those, except there's some wines that are meant to go 40, 50 years out.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of old world in your collection?
Yeah, it's the heart of it is Napa cabs. It just is. That's what, like it was, baby bird comes out of the egg. The first thing they see, they bond on. Well, for me, the first thing I drank was California cabs. But I have a fair amount of French. I have a fair amount of Italian. I love the Italian wines too. Fair amount of Shirazes from Australia, Malbecs from Argentina.
So you're a red guy.
Oh, yeah, I'm a red guy. It's not that I don't like whites, but in almost every situation, I would enjoy a red bottle more.
Yeah, well, I love red too. I think we talked about this, that I started getting headaches, unfortunately, with some of the California wines, with the sulfites, but also the what do they call it, Monsanto?
The
What's it? Pesticides.
Pesticide.
Yeah, pesticides really screw with me.
Yeah.
But you don't have that problem.
No, because most of the high-end vineyards are completely biodynamic now. There are no pesticides at all, which sometimes can be a challenge when you get like the glassy wing sharpshooters or some other things coming in. But they're biodynamic, and the lower-end reds can be nasty, and because they usually have sulfites in them.
Yeah.
They sometimes have salt in them. They sometimes have sugar in them, and they put those things in to try to like moderate the taste, but that stuff's pretty hard on you when you drink it. It can give you, like you said, headaches. A lot of people get headaches from red wine. It's just they're drinking red wine that has a bunch of sulfites in it, and that'll give almost anyone a bad headache.
So what was the process like to get your sommelier certification?
It's great. You there's different levels you go up through, and in the beginning, it's all just book learning. You just study the stuff, and you go attend classes, and you take a test, and then at some point you get tested for wine service. Like, if I'm working in a restaurant. So if this whole law insurance thing doesn't work out, I'll just go work at Mastro's, and serve people wine. And then they start working on what you are, tasting and smelling. And that's my real weakness, my Achilles heel. Some people can smell wine and they can come up with 30 different things they can smell.
Yeah.
I'm not that good.
Your olfactory senses are not that keen, huh?
I just like they go, it smells like saddle leather. I never really knew what a saddle smelled like. So I got to tell you, my vocabulary there is more limited than I liked. Tasting, I'm pretty good at. I can usually tell what the wine is and approximately how old it is and what the grape is and where it's usually from. Not always. Like you just separate. Do you taste or smell oak? If you do, well, it's New World wine. They're not really doing that in Europe. They use pretty much neutral, older stuff, and then you go to how much the richnesses of it. Is this a cab? Is this a Tempranillo? That kind of stuff. And then you look at the rim of the glass, and the thinner the rim,
Legs.
then the older the wine is. Yeah, but so you have to do these things as you go further along.
So knowing your personality, you're going to try to go for a master sommelier certification?
Yep.
Yep.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
That nose might screw you up there.
I actually bought like basically a smell-o-vision kit. It has like 80 different scents in these little vials.
Yeah.
And then I'll set 4 or 5 out, and I'll smell them, and if I can't get it, then I
Oh, I
go
want to
like
do
this.
this with you. Okay,
Oh,
can
it's
we play
fun.
Smell-O-Vision one day?
Oh yeah, it's great.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so I'm working on it. We'll see. It's a
Yeah.
work in progress.
So you love wine, but you're also a foodie.
Yeah.
You love food. What's your favorite restaurant?
Oh, well, overall, in the course of my life, be the French Laundry up in the Napa Valley. They give you a clothespin when you go there, and I have 55 clothespins. Not that I like the place or anything.
You've been to French Laundry 55 times? You've clearly have to be their most popular.
I don't know about that. It's
Patron.
interesting. I went there 2 months after it opened, so I got this before they were kind of a big deal. And I met the chef, who's a really nice man. And
Thomas Keller?
Yep. And so I just kept going. And one of the times he did a pop-up in London, in Harrods, and I thought, what could be more shiny than that? I got to go to that too. So and there they gave you a sterling silver clothespin.
What is with the clothespins?
Because the name of the place is the French Laundry. And it was actually in an old French laundry when he bought the place.
Oh.
So he just kept that name. And so when you get there, you get a wooden clothespin with French Laundry stenciled into the side of the clothespin.
That's so
And I
cool.
just come home and I throw them in a bowl. And after a while, it became the French Laundry bowl.
Well, that's another collection you have then.
Yeah.
Clearly.
He has a great restaurant in New York as well called Per Se, which is also Michelin 3-star. 11 Madison Park is pretty amazing up in New York as well. Although they just completely changed their menu to all vegetarian, so I'm not sure about that anymore.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and there's some great restaurants in Europe and Japan as well.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite European restaurants?
Yeah, my favorite restaurant in London is Hakkasan's, which is a Michelin 1-star. There are 3 stars that I really like, but it's kind of a European Chinese fusion restaurant. Really kind of hip and trendy. You go up down an alley and down a stair thing like that. And the food there's just crazy good. They have Peking duck with caviar on it, which is just so incredibly
gosh.
decadent.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a really fun place. I really enjoy Alain Ducasse's place in Paris and Pierre Gagner's place in Paris. They're fantastic. And there's just so many great restaurants.
What about locally in Orange County? What are your favorite OC restaurants?
Well, my cheers I go to all the time is 21 Oceanfront right down the pier.
And
in
do you know
Newport.
that's the one restaurant I've never been to in Orange County? And I've lived here since, 89? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I love it, and it's the only place left in Orange County you can get abalone. It's like not like poached, it's farm, but it's great. Before COVID hit, I loved going to Studio, and I loved going to Andrea's up in Pelican.
Yeah, Studio still isn't open, I don't think.
Correct. Both of them aren't. It's sort of hard to understand. Studio finally announced that they're going to open on July 1, which is today. So a couple different times I called for reservations. He goes, we don't have a reservation system set up yet, so I don't know what's going on with them.
Wow.
And by this time, I wonder if they can get any of their staff back. So
Staffing
right now,
has definitely been an issue.
yeah, I love the dock in Newport. I think that's a lot of fun.
Yay. I'm going there next week for the first time.
Oh, I think you'll really like that place.
Yeah.
They are really connected to a lot of people that are wine growers in France because that's their background. So they have these wine tastings where they will bring out, like the winemaker for Pontet Canet or the winemaker for Chateau Lafite Rothschild, and they'll do a dinner. It's
So you must be on the VIP list to get that invitation.
just spend a lot of money on wine, and you'll
There
be on
you
the list too.
It's always easy.
Yeah.
Do you cook?
Yes, I love to cook. I don't do it hardly as much anymore as I wished I did because I just don't seem to find the time. But I do a great eggplant parmesan. I'll match mine with anybody.
Really?
And a beef stroganoff too. I enjoy it. Those are my 2 best dishes.
Those are 2 good ones. I love that. It's funny. I grew up thinking I didn't like eggplant, which I think many Americans feel that way.
Right.
And then again, I started traveling to Europe, and I think we were in Italy, and it was like every single restaurant we went to served eggplant as the side dish. It's their national dish, I think. And it was amazing. It was awesome. And so I raised my kids eating eggplant, and they love it now.
My daughter
so,
too.
Yeah.
And the great thing about two dishes I mentioned is you do it right, it's going to take you about an hour and a half to do everything correctly, which means you pop open a bottle of wine and you have some wine while you're cooking. And that seems like a lot of fun to me.
Yeah. No, that is a lot of fun. It's hard for me to cook without having wine with it. It's just, if I'm not drinking, I shouldn't be cooking.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Mike, there are a few causes that you've devoted some significant time and resources to. West Coast Sports Medicine Foundation, you're the director and have been since the 2000. Tell me a little bit about what that's
I'm on
about.
the board of directors. It's a great cause. So there are a lot of kids in LA that don't get to play sports. I'm not talking just football, but girls soccer and everything, because you have to be able to prove that you have health insurance or they don't let you play. So most parents have, for their job, have health insurance, but there's a lot of parents that are either indigent, and then in which case Medi-Cal would count, but they're too clueless to sign up for it, or they're kind of in that never land between Medi-Cal and having a job. So they may have some kind of a gig job or something like that. So we adopt schools. We put together. We give them health insurance. We also put in trainers. There's an amazing doctor, Keith Fader, who's did a lot of the work for the Olympic team, and he's the head of it. He's the chairman and the guiding force of it. And then we'll get some equipment in there and personal trainers in there and whatever we can do. And it is a great program.
Awesome. So you're helping kids get insurance.
Yeah, and so they can play sports.
Yeah.
And we do that one. And then I was one of the founding directors for GRIP, which is a program in Orange County to intervene with kids before they get into gangs. And we gave them like a set of rewards. There's Tony Rakakis is one that started this, and I worked with him on it.
And I think Ann Dunsmore was working with you on that.
That's
as well.
right. That's right. That's right. And in the beginning, the first year we had like 200 kids. We said, look, if you read this many books, you get you don't miss any more days of school, and you get these kind of grades, and you can either come to an Angel game and meet the Angel players, or if you're a soccer fan, you go to the Galaxy game, and it worked. And when I finally went off the board, I think the last year the Angels game had like 2,000 kids there. It was, and one of the first kids that we had in the program who thought he was, all that big a deal, he was going to want to be gangster, ended up becoming a police officer, which I thought was
wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great story.
Yeah, he worked at my office for a little bit, and then he became a police officer. Great kid.
Awesome. So is there anything we can be looking forward to seeing from Mike Schroeder in the future?
I guess just more of the same. I love my life. I'm happy with my life, and I'm just going to keep going.
Keep doing it.
I'm gonna have fun. Don't ever intend really much to retire, and just travel and see stuff.
Sounds awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here, Mike.
It's great.
I love talking to you.
It's great doing this. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Delphine Circle. If you enjoyed the episode, please check out our last two. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Delphine. Welcome to my circle.